Hey there, it's Lacy J here to ask you to go to spacebearmedia.com right now to access all our content, buy yourself some merch, and most importantly, send us a message, the latter of which we'll reply to on our newly revamped weekly pre-shows, where we have as many fun segments as we do on the audio pod. There are current events with Christy, corrections and observations with Ben, and as always, questions with Derek. Plus, I have new fun facts and tell a terrible fucking joke every single week. Please join us, and please consider rating and reviewing us on your favorite app or recommending us to a friend who loves Lost. Hello, everybody! Welcome back. It's Lost in My 40s, Season 3, Episode 4, Every Man for Himself. It's a Sawyer episode, and it's a Derek episode. But first, hello! How's everybody?
Hello.
Wonderful.
Good. Yep.
Yep. All right.
Yep.
Okay, Ben, before we yup our way through this episode, could you update us on the power rankings so far?
Yeah, the power rankings after episode 3, we have Sawyer in first place with 32 points, Juliet in second place with 20 points, and Kate in third place with 16.
That's a hell of a threesome right
I thought
there.
you were going to go whoop, 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 because...
Whoop, whoop, whoop. I know, that's what you were expecting. That's why I didn't do it.
Yeah. Last place, we have Jack in last place. And then,
Yeah, well, stop being a douche.
Yeah, and then Mr. P
Stop
in second
stalking.
to last. with Eddie and Dad Pants Danny in third place.
Eddie the narc and Dad Pants Danny. All right. Hey, Derek. Why don't you tell us about Every Man for Himself?
Okay, well, it's day 70 on the island, and the episode opens with Desmond sitting on the beach, creepily watching Claire and Aaron.
Yeah, this is a little bit weird.
At least he had his pants on.
That's true. Stroking his something else with his pants off.
Yeah, sitting there watching him.
Sitting there with his tie-dye shirt with his schlong hanging out, watching the baby. That's bad. This is bad news.
So he gets up and walks over to her as she is writing in her journal and tells her that she has a problem with her roof, that she should move down.
What is
the
she
beach
writing
for
in
the
her
night.
journal?
Hold on.
What is she writing in her
Hey.
journal?
I don't know what she's writing in her journal. Like,
She doesn't do anything.
Right.
Just another
Ask
day sitting here,
questions.
another day worrying about my baby. You know, like,
Baby.
what the fuck are you actually writing about, Claire?
I think
Also,
she's writing
Desmond-
about, like things that she remembers from like the real world. You know, from
don't spoil our fun.
I don't know.
We're making
Damn
fun
it,
of her
yeah.
now.
Yes.
Yeah, she's easy to make fun of.
Okay, but also, Desmond, have you heard of Hello? Do you just walk up to somebody and say you have a problem with your roof? Like,
Your roof's
excuse
leaking,
me,
brother.
brother.
So she declines the offer because Aaron is just fallen asleep. And Charlie comes over and asks Desmond what he's doing and says if there's a problem with the roof that he will fix it. And he's quite handy because he was building a church before Echo exploded.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Defensive much?
Also, when Charlie comes up, he does say, like, what are you doing, brother? And, like, I just imagine the two of them getting into, like, a brother off where, like, every sentence ends in brother.
All three of them would be like, brother, 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 baby, brother, 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 baby.
Did you just write a techno song about...
I might have.
There you go. So Desmond leaves telling them that he was just trying to help. And Claire asks Charlie, what was that all about? And Charlie replies with, we're going to have to get that guy another button to push.
Still funny. Funny last week,
Yep.
funny this week.
So we cut to Jack's cell, and he is watching cartoons, and there's a knock on the door.
He's watching
Jack-
cartoon like it's Saturday morning. It's Jack in his cell watching cartoons.
So Jack goes to the wall and sits down, and in comes Juliet with a tray of food.
Oh, she's
Just
got
a-
him trained now. You see
Yeah.
that? She knocks, he moves to the wall, she comes in. Like, that was quick.
Yeah.
Just
Jack.
toothpicks today. There's no food at all. Just toothpicks.
Yeah.
No. She comes
asked
in with
him
a
how
tray
he's-
of cantaloupe, each with a toothpick.
Yeah, cantaloupe.
All right.
She asks him how he's doing, and he says, "Great." Oh, could you answer? You're getting to watch cartoons in a jail cell. Awesome. She can see he looks frustrated, and Jack says he is because he's going to keep watching cartoons, or he's going to tell him, or she is going to tell him why he is there. She changes the subject, telling him she hopes he likes Blueberry, and Jack interrupts her, asking if he should talk to Benjamin because all she is someone who is bringing him food.
Whoa. You know what's amazing about this scene is how reminiscent is it of when Henry Gale, aka Benjamin Linus, was locked up and he was playing Locke with like, oh, should I ask Jack about this? And then now
Yeah.
here we have Jack basically echoing that
Yeah.
to Juliet.
Yeah.
So she tells Jack he can talk to him all he wants, but he won't tell him anything. Jack says that Ben is in charge, and Juliet says it doesn't work that way, that they make decisions together. But Jack said Ben seemed fine making a decision to leave her with Jack when he had a piece of plate against her neck.
Yeah.
She tells Jack that she doesn't answer to him, and just then Ben walks in and tells her he needs her. She
Well, what
asks
he
if it-
says is what he says is that the submarine is back.
What?
Like, excuse me, the what?
Yeah,
The what is
these,
back?
These people have a
No wonder they
submarine?
didn't-
What the fuck?
Yeah, well, no wonder they didn't argue with Michael over the boat. They got
Yeah.
a freaking submarine.
Yeah.
Well, see now you know how they got onto the boat, right? When they were
Stuck
doing
on.
that.
Yep.
Yeah,
how they
that
stuck
awful
on.
episode. Yeah, they snuck on because I guess they've got a submarine.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she asks if it can wait, and Ben says, the sub is back, and we have a situation, so come with me now.
Oh, sorry, I
Sub?
just jumped the gun on
Yeah.
that.
The sub? That's what I was
Yeah.
like, wait a minute, the what? So the others are walking quickly through the jungle with Colleen on a stretcher. The scene then switches to Sawyer in his cage and Danny opening the door, and he tells Sawyer it's time for work. And Sawyer says, sound a little stuffy there, Chinatown. You need to blow your nose?
And of course, Danny and the dad pants. Wait, what did you call it? I already forgot.
Dad pants, Danny.
Pants Danny. Yeah, dad pants
Dad
Danny's
Pants Danny.
nose is all bandaged up from being busted by Sawyer.
So they come close to fighting when a voice comes over the walkie-talkie to tell Danny that Colleen has been hurt. Ben, Juliet, and some others carry Colleen past Sawyer and Kate, who still looks great in that dress. And Tom tells Juliet she is hurt bad. Kate asks Sawyer what happened, and Sawyer replies with, we happen. Been on this rock long enough to realize they ain't in the business of shooting each other. We did it. Our team. And Kate asks if he's smiling, and he says, damn right I'm smiling, because we just got our ticket out of here.
I mean, I have to agree with him that, you know, they're clearly it was their side that did it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
No, he's right. So
And so we
lost
go to the
title
lost
screen.
title screen,
Uh-huh.
and Sawyer moves the water pipe in his cage to run onto the ground instead of the trough, and then triggers the reward. Food comes out as before, but now the water runs into the ground in front of his cage. Kate asks, what is he doing? And he says that the woman on the stretcher is Broken Nose's girlfriend. And Kate says they call him Pickett.
Dad
Sawyer
pants
says,
Danny.
well, Pickett is What?
Dad pants
I
Danny.
said dad pants Danny.
Yeah, Danny. Sawyer says, well, Pickett is distracted at the moment, and Kate asks, why is that important? He says the puzzle has electricity coming from somewhere, and when they come back and stand in the pool in front of the cage, he is going to electrocute him.
Oh,
Pretty
Okay.
solid plan.
yeah.
Yeah, except that people naturally don't stand in puddles. That's just
Right.
like
Yeah.
They
the,
avoid it,
the
yeah.
central fallacy to your plan is that people don't stand in puddles. If they have any other place they can stand, they will.
Well,
Yeah.
Kate says both of them will get it, but Sawyer says he felt it before and he will be prepared, but the others will not. He adds, bet the bears never thought of that. Kate is impressed, so Sawyer tells her to wipe the stars out of her eyes.
wow.
Yep. She then asks, what about Jack and Sawyer? Oh, no, then asks, what about Jack? And Sawyer says, what about him? We don't even know if he's here or alive, and we have to take care of us. And it's every man for himself, Freckles.
When
Hence
is
the name of the
Sawyer going to
episode.
learn his lesson? Last week it
Yep.
was like, when is Locke going to figure out how not to get conned? And now this week it's like, when are you going to realize, Sawyer, that friends are good?
Live together, die alone.
Yeah.
That's right. So we go to flashback number 1, and Sawyer is in a boxing ring and knocks a man to his knees when a prison guard yells, "Ford, that's enough."
Okay, first of all, Sawyer with that shoulder-length hair in the half-up ponytail.
Mhm.
Oh, God, put that poster on my bedroom wall. That is some sexy
We know who you're
shit
fucking
right
this
there.
episode.
Sing us how that's also my bedroom wall. I'm gonna say we need to have a discussion about that first.
All right,
Put it in the
continue.
yoga room, Lacy.
Okay.
So Sawyer helps the guy up, and after they get dressed, they're walking down the stairs. They see a fight, and Sawyer asks, "Who is the punching bag?" The other prisoner tells him he just got here, and his name is Munson, and rumor is he ripped off the government for $10 million, but they never found the money. He tells Sawyer if his buddy, the warden, wasn't breaking up the fights, Munson would be a dead man. Sawyer sees the warden watching the fight and says, "That son of a bitch." So then we cut to Munson's at a sewing machine, and Sawyer walks up asking if he gets his mints on his pillow at night too. Munson acts confused, and Sawyer tells him, "You think the warden breaks up fights because he thinks you're cute, Costanza?"
Costanza.
Yeah, I love it.
Any like short bald man and that like a certain range of years is going to be called Costanza, I guess.
He says it's because he's making a play for the $10 million. Sawyer says the first step is to butter him up, and then step 2 will be the warden will reach out to Munson's wife and use her against him, which is a textbook con. Munson wants to know why he's telling him this, and Sawyer calls him Murgatroyd. And says
What is that? I don't know what is that reference.
I never got that either.
Heavens, the
You know, Lacy?
Murgatroyd.
Yeah, that's just that's where I knew it from. Was what is that? Looney Tunes?
Yeah.
Or some?
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't know. I'm googling Murgatroyd right now. Murgatroyd. It's a name, an English surname of Yorkshire origin and nobility.
Hmm.
Oh, here we
Okay.
go. What does the term "heavens to Murgatroyd" mean? It means disbelief or utter bewilderment. It's a characteristic catchphrase of Snagglepuss.
Oh, okay.
In the vein of the similar American phrase "heavens to Betsy," just "heavens to Murgatroyd." Yeah, Hanna-Barbera. That's where that's from.
Got it.
I don't know if it means anything else. Why would he call him Murgatroyd, though?
I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah.
Because
All right,
most of his names have some sort of connotation, meaning to them.
All right,
Yeah.
well, check out next week's pre-show where we will be exploring the word Murgatroyd.
Wait, there's more to it than that?
I don't know. I guess we'll find out.
So after he calls him Murgatroyd and says for the past 9 months, the warden has made his life a living hell, and if the warden got that $10 million he doesn't have, Sawyer may just have to kill himself.
Ah, yikes, Sawyer.
Wow. The warden walks up and asks Munson if Sawyer's bothering him. Sawyer asks what brings him to the sewing shop, and the warden replies, "All it would take is one call to extend his stay."
Really? Do
Yeah, I didn't know
prison
that
wardens
wardens
have
could
that
do-
kind of
yeah.
power in the
Yeah.
justice
That's
system?
what I was thinking.
You gotta
that
say
sounds... No.
that the actor Bill Duke, who plays the warden, is he just not the strangest looking fella?
No, he's just
Yeah.
Mhm.
really, really unattractive.
He's
Yeah.
got like, he almost looks like his face is like a mask that somebody's wearing over. Like his face just doesn't look right. And I always thought like, even you see him in Predator, like going back like 30 years, he looks exactly
Yeah.
the same.
Yeah.
His
Yeah.
face has not
Changed.
changed at all.
It's
It's
funny,
a
when I was
face
watching
for radio,
this
man.
episode, I said something like that to Caleb. I'm like, he's just the ugliest motherfucker. And he's like, well, Munson isn't exactly, a hottie. I'm like, I'd fuck
Right.
Munson before I'd fuck the warden,
Wow.
Okay.
Or
Munson.
warden.
Bonus.
Well, we know who's not going to be in your threesome at the end of the episode.
Yeah. Could be Sawyer and Munson.
Oh my
yeah.
God. And no disrespect to the warden. If you listen to this podcast, I apologize for my rude friends. I'm kidding. Yeah, the guy's weird looking.
He has to know that he has a very unique look.
Absolutely. I mean, you got casting
Unique.
people are like, okay, we need somebody with sort of a dead look that's really unsettling. They're like, hey, Bill Duke, let's bring him in.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, that's what a character actor
Yeah,
is.
man.
A lot of people are
Yeah.
cast that way because they just have a face that's not normal.
Like
Yeah.
Steve Buscemi.
Seriously, like
Steve
Coen, that
Buscemi.
is like the Coen brothers casting is based basically on how jacked up someone's face is. Like they cast people with the weirdest faces. Like all of their bit actors are all these like, just really strange looking people.
But Steve Buscemi's not just a weird looking guy. Like he's one hell of a fucking actor too.
Oh, he's great.
I don't know that I'd put him into character because he has more of a range than just playing the weird looking guy. Although it does work for him. What did we watch just several weeks ago? I rewatched Con Air. My God.
That was the first time I saw him, I believe.
He's also a fireman.
Oh,
like
really?
an actual fireman?
Yeah. He used to be a firefighter in New York City. And on September 11th, he showed up to the firehouse. He was already famous at that point, and he's like, "I've got to go," you know. So he showed up to the firehouse and went down to ground zero to do what he could to help.
Wow.
Oh, all I know is like he's just brilliant in everything. But I imagine in Con Air he was cast. That was early in his career, and he's cast as like a cannibalistic serial killer. And I'm sure his face had something to do with it.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's funny. There are some things that he can actually look attractive in. Not for the most part, but every now and then I'm like, he's not bad looking right here.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
We got way off track.
Speaking
there.
of cannibalistic serial killers,
Shut the fuck up, Donnie.
I did watch the whole Dahmer series on.
I did too. Yeah, very controversial.
Highly recommended
series. I think it was really well done. Yeah,
it was.
I thought it was pretty good.
Oh, he's just
Evan Peters is just
he's brilliant.
He's a hell of an actor. Yeah.
All right.
Wow.
That's got to be a hard part to play. Yeah.
To play Dahmer? Yeah, I would assume so. Although, like, there's a lot of video and interviews and stuff with him. I'm assuming he must have listened and watched all of that to.
Well, there's the Dahmer
encompass that
tapes.
character.
I watched that too.
That had to be a bit of a mind
actually his
fuck for
recordings.
him to have to sit there and listen to it and study him and be
I'm
like him.
Sure, it does. That's why. I mean, actors are incredible people. Like the fact that you have to embody that space and think and act and speak like such a horrific character in history. I mean, I think Evan Peters did an incredible job. I know there's a lot of controversy around the show. Like, apparently Netflix didn't contact victims' families, or they're claiming that. I don't know. I'm not going to get into it. But Evan Peters is great, and we are so fucking off track. So, Derek.
Well, back to the prison.
Back to the prison.
So the warden throws the apple that he was eating on the floor and tells Sawyer to pick up that trash. So back on the island, Sawyer sees Ben approaching his cage and tells Kate, "Oh yeah, it's the big kahuna." Ben stops just short of the puddle in front of the cage and asks Sawyer, "What does he weigh?" And he tells him 180, give or take. Ben then asks how old he is, and at first Sawyer says 32, and Ben says, "Don't lie." So Sawyer says 35.
Why is that really a thing? Like, you're trying to tell, like, you're 35. I mean, God, you're young. Jesus Christ.
Why do people
I know. Well, I feel like
it's so
I don't know. The
32,
first time I
35,
watched it, I was like, 35. Oh, that is old.
Yeah.
Now it's like, oh, baby.
So Ben says good and starts unlocking the door. Sawyer grabs his arm and says, "Sayonara, sucker."
Seriously, was that necessary, Sawyer?
And kicks the button with his foot, but nothing happens. Sawyer asks what he did, and Ben says they turned it off and hit Sawyer in the face with an ASP baton.
Ow.
He beats Sawyer with the club while Kate screams for Sawyer, and Ben eventually knocks him out with a kick to the head.
Jesus.
Ben is fucking brutal.
Yeah, man. He
Jesus.
can handle himself with that club. Like he was pretty efficient.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So Sawyer wakes up strapped to a table, and Tom tells Ben it has been 2 days since the sky turned purple, and all their comms are down, and they can't get them back up, and Colleen is in critical condition. Ben says Juliet is taking care of her, and has Jason come over to put a stick in Sawyer's mouth, which is for the pain.
Jesus. This is
Yeah,
so torturous.
Very.
Yeah, it's like, that's not a good sign.
No.
Yeah.
Somebody ties you
What's
to
this
a
for?
table,
It's for the pain.
puts a stick in your mouth. You're in for some shit after that.
Yep. Another comes over with a big needle, and Ben says he hates needles. Sawyer is squirming on the table, saying no, more like screaming no.
Mm-hmm.
Jack is eating in his cell and can hear Sawyer calling for help through the speaker that was supposedly broken. Back to Sawyer, one other tells the one with the needle that he has to go through this sternum like in the movies.
Jesus.
Like in the movies. So like this is
Sternum.
what Pulp Fiction's only been out a few years by this
Oh, yeah,
time
I
this
remember
came
that
out,
scene,
right?
Yep.
Definitely
Yeah.
like still part of the everyday, pop culture references
Get out
for
the
sure.
gimp.
Yeah.
And bring out the gimp.
Yep. You don't tell no one about this. Back, let's see. He then goes 1, 2, and Sawyer is screaming, "Wait!"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah, wait. I don't. The scene cuts to Paolo practicing his golf swing, and Christy's like, "Oh, this is the best scene of the show."
Well, I mean,
He's
Desmond
already
is
showing
in
what a
it.
fucking douche he is.
Yeah.
He's
Yes.
sitting there
Such a
just,
dick.
I'm just
Yeah.
going to hit things out into the ocean.
Yeah. Paolo's a dipshit. Desmond, sexy as always.
Yep. And speaking of, Desmond walks up to take one of the clubs, telling him Hurley said he could have it. Paolo tells him to take the 5-iron because he never uses it. And when Desmond dies in the jungle doing whatever he's about to do, Paolo won't have to go looking for it.
Okay.
Like-
What a
Okay.
dick.
Fuck you
Okay.
too,
That's
Paolo.
actually a win for Paolo. That was hilarious.
Desmond thanks him and gives him a tip on his stance. When Paolo asks if Desmond plays golf, Desmond smiles and says, "I'm Scottish, brother."
Yeah.
Doesn't say brother,
And he
but he
does
says, "I'm
it. He
Scottish."
does it like kind of over his shoulder, and his hair is
Yeah.
blowing.
So
And
sexy.
he's so.
Back to Sawyer strapped to the table. The camera pans up and there's a bandage on his chest over his heart. Tom and Ben walk into the room with a rabbit in the cage. And
Okay,
the
this
rabbit
is one of the most fucked up scenes
Yeah.
in this entire show. I mean, it really is like, what is your deal, Ben?
Yeah, I
What
wrote
is
as
your
if we
deal?
didn't already know that Ben was a psycho.
Yeah.
I love this
So-
scene.
Yeah. So the rabbit has the number 8 painted on its back. And Ben puts the cage over Sawyer's chest and starts shaking it, telling the rabbit to come on and hippity hop. I mean, this really goes crazy.
He does.
This goes on. Yeah, this goes on for a while until the rabbit just falls dead on its side. Sawyer then asks, "Did you just kill the bunny?"
Christ. I mean, and Sawyer can be an asshole, but he's like, "Did you just kill that bunny?" Like,
Yeah, like,
he's
what
so
the
incredulous.
Well, yeah, he was shaking the cage, screaming, yelling,
Yeah.
going
That
nuts.
is a creepy fucking scene.
Yeah.
I mean, it says the guy that had an entire episode trying to kill a frog and then another entire episode trying to kill a boar. So I don't know where he's
that's
coming from.
Ben replies that the rabbit had a pacemaker set to deliver its kickstart if it got too excited or anxious or frightened or should try to escape. He then puts a watch on Sawyer's arm and tells him he has a pacemaker in him and that if his heart rate hits 140, the pacemaker will cause his heart to explode.
Excuse me?
I don't think
Yeah.
that
I don't
I'm
think
like-
that's what
I'm
pacemakers
like-
are built to do.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First of all, you didn't. I can tell my ribs aren't broken, so I know you guys did not go into my fucking heart. Give me a
I
break.
know.
You're not going to install a pacemaker between my ribs.
Yeah, speaking of the con man getting conned here, we were
Seriously.
talking about Locke all last episode, like how did he not figure some of this shit out? But here I'm just like, Sawyer, are you serious? Like, this is your chosen
Come on,
career
man.
is conning people.
Yeah, you
Did
should know better.
You can't figure out that they didn't cut into your chest? Like, hello?
He's like, I don't typically do medical fraud. Like,
Yeah.
Alrighty.
He then says he knows now that Sawyer will behave, and if his heart rate gets within 15 beats of the danger zone, the watch will start to beep, and that he will want to relax if that happens. Sawyer then asks, why didn't they just kill him? And Ben replies, because we're not killers, James.
You just killed the fucking bunny.
We're not all killers. We're not all killers, is what he should have said.
We don't kill humans. So, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But he calls him James.
Yeah. Well, we know that he knows that his name is James, right? Because it was on the list that
that's right.
They gave Hurley.
Michael had.
Michael,
right.
yeah. James
Michael,
Ford.
yeah.
Before taking him back to his cage, Ben warns Sawyer that if he tells Kate about the pacemaker or cameras watching them, he will put one in her, too.
I'll put one in her.
Yeah, I don't want to put a pacemaker in her, but...
Oh!
They bring Sawyer back to his cage, and as he walks past Kate, she calls his name, but he doesn't say anything to her. Tom puts a bucket with water and sponges so they can clean themselves, and Tom throws some clothes in for Kate and tells her to give him a holler if any of it doesn't fit. Kate watches Sawyer clean his face with a sponge and asks him what happened. He says nothing. He said nothing. They just asked him some questions, and it isn't important. It's very unlike Sawyer.
Uh-huh.
She doesn't believe him and asks him again. He repeats it. It wasn't important and to quit asking. She dumps out the clothes and tells Sawyer to turn around while she changes.
No.
Yeah. Nope. Yeah, I will, but I'm still going to turn my head.
No, thank you.
He unbuttons his shirt and looks under the bandage to see a wound. He then turns back around and sees Kate facing away, but she just removed her shirt. Naturally, his heart rate increases to 125, which is in the danger zone, and it starts beeping. Kate asks, what is that? And he said his watch is busted, and she asks, where did you get a watch? He gets angry and yells back at her, look, I don't tell you everything, and to leave him alone as the beeping gets faster. He then tells her to put
some clothes on.
Yeah, he then tells her to put some clothes on, and he dumps the water from the bucket on his head, and you can hear the beeping slow down.
I guess it was cold. He had a cold shower.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's too much. Oh, I fucking love it.
Wouldn't a certain like cold water all of a sudden, wouldn't that actually make your heart rate go up for a second?
It might, yeah.
I think at first, yeah.
Because you'd be shocked, yeah.
Yeah.
But you're just supposed to get the image of like having to cool himself down after
Yeah.
looking at that.
Yes.
Yeah, my heart rate's elevated just talking about the clothing change.
So we go to flashback number 2. Sawyer is in the prison visitation room watching Munson talking to a blonde visitor. He is getting upset, and she is telling him to look at her, and he looks at Sawyer. As he looks at Sawyer, we then hear a female voice say, "Hello, Sawyer," and he turns to see Cassidy and says, "It's James Ford," and I know you know that because you got it right when you pressed charges.
Yep.
She wonders if he is mad at her. Really? Put me in prison? And he says, look where I am. And she said that he conned her. He asks what she wants.
She looks hot as fuck in this scene, by the way.
Yeah.
She's got her
Yeah.
kind of like dressed up like a pinup girl, hair and everything. And yeah, she just looks good.
He asks what she wants, and she shows him a picture of a baby and that he has a daughter. She tells him her name is Clementine, and they live in Albuquerque near the university. And I don't know what, and he wants him to write her a letter. He says, "What am I going to write, dear Goo Goo Gaga?" She's just a baby, and she ain't mine.
Bye-bye.
He says again he doesn't have a daughter.
No, he says,
Ouch,
I ain't got
Sawyer.
no daughter.
Not
Dude just
cool.
went full Herschel Walker on her.
Oh! Again, I think I mentioned last week when I said Happy New Year, we are recording these before the election, so it could be
It could be Senator Walker. Oh God.
Are you
God.
serious?
Oh God.
George.
Well, that surprised me after President Trump.
Yeah.
All right, so you all know what's happened. We don't know yet, but now I'm feeling terrified. Let's not talk about that Joker anymore.
That's scarier than Ben Linus.
Yes.
Yeah, but at least Ben Linus, he may be evil, but at least he's like competent. I would rather almost have somebody like competent and evil in charge of somebody who's just a fucking hulking mess. Like,
And to think this guy was in charge of our nuclear weapons.
Right.
Okay, I think Ben's talking about Herschel Walker. You're talking about Trump, but honestly, it's the same character. It's the
Pretty much,
bumbling mess of a human being who's
exactly.
stupid. to.
Probably took too many
Anyway,
hits.
Yeah,
Probably took too
Anyway.
many hits.
yeah.
Too many hits to the head.
A walking reactionary nerve bundle. That's all they are.
So back at the cages, Kate tells Sawyer that if she climbs to the top of the cage, she can squeeze through the bars. Sawyer tells her don't bother and to be smart and chill out for a while. Jack hears noises.
Are you just figuring this out now? You've been in those cages for days and days and days. Would that have not been one of the first things you thought were like, hey, I could probably fit through that?
Yeah.
That would have been within
think
10
so.
seconds of waking up in a cage. It
hasn't really been days and days and days, though. It's been, I mean, maybe 2.
It's still long enough.
But yeah, I would think so. Yeah.
Sawyer tells her don't bother and to be smart, chill out. Okay. Jack hears noises coming out of the intercom again, and the people are saying, what is he doing to Coral? You know what he's doing. It was a mistake bringing those two here. Then Juliet comes into the other side of the room, and Jack asks, what did you do to Sawyer? She says nothing, but that he heard him yelling and that she has blood on her clothes.
I mean,
Juliet
he's got a
says-
good point.
Yeah.
If he could hear
Yeah.
him screaming and she comes walking in covered in blood.
Juliet says that's not his blood and tells him it's the blood of a woman who is dying. She then asks Jack for his help, and we cut to the cages where an alarm starts to sound loudly. Jack has walked past Kate and Sawyer with a hood over his head. Kate recognizes him, and both of them start calling out his name, but the others are sounding the alarm to drown out their voices.
She sees his tattoo, I think,
Yeah.
right? Isn't that what?
That's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. And which is kind of important because that tattoo becomes a
got its
little
own
bit of a
story.
focus in the next. Yeah. And you're right, it's got its own terrible episode. Only not the worst episode of the season because of expose.
Right.
But Jack actually ends up hearing them because he stops and turns towards the cages before they push him into a building.
Mm-hmm.
So Jack is led to an operating room where they remove the hood, and Ben comes in after them telling Juliet she has lost her mind bringing him there. She tells him Jack is a doctor and he can help, and he starts to say, well, that's why, before Juliet interrupts him, asking, do you want her to die? And takes Jack to the door where
Yeah,
he
so
can
there's
see
obviously
Colleen
like
on the table.
something else is going on there. They're talking about 2 things, right?
Yes,
We're
I
not
know,
supposed
they
to
are.
know. Yeah.
Right. He asks what happened, and Juliet says gunshot wound, and they both begin to wash their hands surgeon style.
But Jack only
Mhm.
washes his hands for like 15 seconds, and that is not
Not-
how a surgeon
supposed-
washes their
No.
hands.
Right.
It's supposed to be like 3 minutes, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So Jack sees some spinal x-rays on the wall that show a tumor, and Juliet says that is not Colleen's, and they go into the OR. Danny gets angry, asking what is he doing there, and Juliet says he is here to help. They lead
Keep
Danny
your
out.
pants on. Keep your dad pants on. He's here to help.
They lead Danny out, and Juliet says she got the bullet out, but she's still bleeding. Jack asks Juliet to help clamp off the bleeding behind the liver. But then Colleen flatlines, and Jack asks for paddles to restart her heart. Juliet says it's broken.
Jesus.
So Jack tries CPR, but she dies. He looks around for a clock to call it, but there isn't one. Watching from a window above, Danny starts screaming, "They did this!" and runs out of the room. Tom follows, yelling, "Danny, wait, keep your pants on."
Keep your dad pants.
The thing is like, even if she had lived, I feel like with Jack, with all the mouth breathing and sweating that he's doing, he would have just like, he was basically sweating in all of her open wounds.
Gross.
Oh, yeah.
Like, come on. Like you said, he didn't really wash his hands.
Yeah.
He wasn't wearing a mask. Come on, guys.
Yeah.
It's kind of heartbreaking the moment, though, that Juliet feels like she has to explain why they don't have a crash cart.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she looks and sounds really distraught. I feel for her in that moment.
So now this scene is rough coming up here.
Yes.
So Danny goes to Sawyer's cage, grabs him, and drags him over to
you know
Kate's
what?
cage.
Okay, before we move on, there was one thing that I wanted to mention about this last scene, but that was not CPR. Okay, he looked like he was having like a seizure while stiff arming her. Like that was not CPR. That's not what CPR looks like. That's not how you do CPR. That was hilariously bad. And that was all that I really wanted to say about that. So you're welcome to continue now, Derek.
Okay, so Danny goes to Sawyer's cage, grabs him, and drags him over to Kate's cage. He starts punching the living shit out of Sawyer while asking Kate if she loves him. Kate begs him to stop, but he doesn't until Kate finally says, "Yes, I love him." What?
And
While
then
holding
she
on to Sawyer
bursts
through the
into
bars.
tears after saying it too. This scene is gut wrenching.
Yeah, Danny was really wailing on him. So Danny walks away, still upset, and yells to lock him up. So we go to flashback number 3, and Sawyer is reading Of Mice and Men when Munson comes up to him wanting to talk to him, and that is important. He says Sawyer was right about her and that he loved her, meaning his wife. Sawyer tells him 10 million is a lot of greenbacks calls him killer, and that it tends to change things, which is why you never get attached.
Oh, yeah. Interesting, since we just saw Cassidy, and now he's like explaining to him, he can't get attached. Poor Sawyer.
Munson asks what the woman who visited him wanted, and Sawyer says, something I ain't got. Sawyer wants to know if he can go back to his book and to find out if George gets his farm. When Munson asks if Sawyer can move the money because his wife has hired a PI and is going to find it. Sawyer says no, it's too dangerous, but Munson says if he doesn't move it, the warden will get it, and he will win. This gets Sawyer's attention.
He smiles.
Yep. Back in his cage, Sawyer's again washing his very beaten face with a sponge, and Kate asks if he is okay. Sawyer replies, "Dandy, guy hits like a girl."
Okay.
Didn't look like it.
No, it looked like he was whooping your ass.
Yeah, his ass.
But of course, what could Sawyer do? He's like, he couldn't fight back because he thinks he's got this fucking thing in his chest.
My guess is that getting the shit beat out of you is probably going to make your heart rate go up whether you fight back or not.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, like he's in the danger zone just watching Kate take
he's just like,
her shirt off, but he's getting beat.
As he's getting the shit beat out of him. Deep cleansing breath.
She asks, why did he do that? And he says he doesn't know. She begins to climb out of her cage, but Sawyer doesn't want her to. He says the time isn't right, and she says she doesn't know what they did to him, but it scared him enough to lie to her, and that scares her more than anything they could have done to them before.
I mean, she's got a good point.
Yeah.
Like he's obviously he's hiding something, and Kate doesn't like to not know.
No,
right? I mean, that's her to a fault many times.
Yeah, she wants to be part of it.
She makes it over to his cage and starts to beat on the lock with a rock. But Sawyer keeps telling her not to, and that she has to go and to leave him. He tells her to run, and that causes his watch to start beeping again, and she asks, what is that? And he says, just go. It's every man for himself. Kate then asks, why didn't you fight back? And he replies, if you really love me, go. And this sucks. She only said that to get him to stop hitting him, and you can see he is disappointed.
Yeah, but now she's lying, I think.
He tells her to run, but she climbs back in the cage. He tells her to run, but she ends up climbing back into her cage, and he calls her Freckles. But once back in her cage, she tells him, live together, die alone.
Mm-hmm. Also, that was really Evangeline Lilly climbing in and out of that cage.
Yeah, I was about to say that too.
Props to her, because that's amazing.
That thing is like 20 feet up or 15 feet up at least. Yeah,
she pulled herself up like it was nothing.
So Ben and Tom are watching it all on a monitor.
Of course.
And Tom tells him Danny wants to kill Sawyer, but Ben says Danny can wait. He then asks if he should bring Jack back, but Ben says no, that he wants him to sit with Colleen for a while longer, which can also be seen on another monitor. Juliet comes into the OR where Jack is handcuffed to the bed where Colleen's body is. She tells Jack that she is a fertility doctor and that she is not used to death. He asks her
which would be really, I mean, if you're a fertility doctor, then you're dealing with miscarriage all the time.
Yeah.
So,
right. So there's death involved.
It's not, I mean, I guess there's a gray area there. But you're.
Let's get into the finer points of when a baby becomes a person.
Oh my God, no.
It's always a fun discussion, isn't it?
I know.
Oh, yes.
But still, I mean, okay, whatever, Juliet.
So he asks her what the woman's name was, and Juliet tells her call, short for Colleen, and that she should have come to get Jack sooner. But he says there wasn't anything more she could have done, and that she was dead before they put her on the table. Juliet asks, is he saying that to make her feel better? And he says he doesn't care about making her feel better.
Snap.
Ow. Yep.
I mean, she's an other to him, so
yeah, of course.
He's got a point.
She walks over to uncuff him, and he takes him and take him back to a cell when Jack asks her whose x-rays are those outside, and that they belong to a man about 40 years old, and he has a very large tumor on his L4 vertebrae, and he happens to be a spinal surgeon, and asks, who is he really here to see?
Say.
I'm going to say a doctor just looking at one x-ray. The medical adventures I've had with the imaging and stuff in the past couple months makes me think that no one doctor is going to look at a radiograph walking by it and be able to say that much about it.
Yeah,
he looked at it for 15 seconds while I was washing his hands.
Yeah, it's silly. Of course it's silly. But the moment itself is pretty fucking dramatic where he's just like, who am I here to save? And then you're like, wait a second, was there a purpose to kidnapping Jack?
And what man is about in his 40s that's around?
I don't know.
So at the beach, Desmond is building some sort of lightning rod with bamboo and the golf club at the top and some wire which he drives into the ground.
Yeah, also, where's he getting wire and rope from?
Well, the wire from the plane.
Probably from the plane.
Oh,
There's
okay.
a shitload of wire on planes.
Okay, all right, fine.
And he walks over to where Hurley is slicing some fruit and sits on the table. Hurley asks, is that art? But Desmond
it's a
says,
cute line. Yeah, is that art?
He says, no, it's an experiment. Hurley offers him some fruit salad, but Desmond declines. And Hurley begins to walk away, but Desmond says, you might want to wait a minute. Hurley asks why, and then you hear thunder and it begins to pour. What? Aaron begins to cry, so Claire and Charlie wrap him in blankets when lightning strikes the golf club, knocking it over. Charlie is staring at Desmond inquisitively.
Yeah, he's got a look on his face.
Go, my baby.
Charlie's like suspicious of something at this point.
Sure. But I have to say that Claire's shelter is pretty shit. It's like so open, on one side. The roof barely covers things.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not going to do anything to actually shelter them.
And beaches are typically windy. That's kind of part of But luckily Charlie is very, very handy. So
yes,
right,
he'll take care of it.
He almost built a church.
Exactly.
So Sawyer's
before Echo exploded.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I love that kind of tropical downpour, though.
Yes.
In that scene, I love when the sky just opens up.
Costa Rica did it every day.
It was like 5:30 comes down for like 2 or 3 minutes. Yeah.
Florida's tropical like that, where the rain is predictable.
We had some nice storms when we were down in Mexico for our anniversary in October.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Sawyer is sleeping in his cell where it's not raining, and he's woken up by Ben, who tells him, let's go for a walk.
All right.
So we go to flashback number 4, and Sawyer is escorted to the prison gym by 4 guards where the warden is waiting for him in front of the boxing ring. He tells Ford that when he first got here, he thought he was a dumb hick, but he was wrong. He is a dumb hick who knows how to steal.
Well.
Yeah.
Sawyer asks to get it over with, and the warden introduces Agent Freeman from the Treasury Department.
I do like that it's Agent Friedman.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that?
Just
the name?
Friedman.
Oh, right, of course.
Sawyer tells him the $10 million is in a red Bronco parked in a store quick facility in Sawgrass right off of 441 in Unit 23C.
Oh, interesting numbers.
Yes.
Well, the 23 at least.
Yep. The warden tells Sawyer that the last 6 years of his sentence has been commuted, and Freeman tells Sawyer as soon as the funds are confirmed, his commission will be processed. Commission?
Yeah, I guess.
He asked him how he would like it, and Sawyer tells him to set up a new account, doesn't matter what bank, and just make it in Albuquerque and put the name of Clementine Phillips, and he wants her to never find out where the money came from.
Aww.
Wow. Yeah, that was like, damn, Sawyer.
Well, forever the battle between, is Sawyer a really decent human being who has just been traumatized repeatedly, or is he an actual asshole?
Yes.
He's both. He's both.
Yep.
That's why he's a good character.
Yeah. All right.
Ask who Clementine is, but Sawyer doesn't answer, asking if they are done. The warden congratulates him, telling him he just lied and cheated his way out of prison.
Well,
Hey, any way you can get out of prison, shit.
I mean, I guess so.
So back on the island, Ben and two others are leading Sawyer up a hill. And when I first saw this scene, I'm thinking about, okay, the pacemaker, you're climbing the hill.
I know.
Heart rate's going to go up.
Hello.
He then asks, what is up there? And Ben says, something you'll want to see. And Sawyer replies with, something you've always wanted, George. Ben doesn't get it, and Sawyer says it's from Of Mice and Men, Don't You Read? And to ask him, don't you read? And he would like it because puppies get killed.
That was a great line.
Yep. The watch begins to beep, and Sawyer rubs his chest. His heart rate goes to 135, and he asks Ben if they brought him up here to kill him, to make that thing blow up his heart. Ben tells Sawyer that if his heart isn't going to blow up, and that the only thing they put inside of him was doubt, and the watch is just the heart rate monitor. He then pulls the rabbit out with the 8 on its back out of his bag, and it is alive.
I imagine there he just tosses it over the cliff.
Yeah. He says they gave him a sedative, not a pacemaker. Sawyer questions the authenticity of the bunny, and they could have just painted an 8 on another one. Ben says, you don't know, and Sawyer clocks him, calling him a son of a bitch. They reach the top of the hill, and you can see a look of shock in Sawyer's face.
Yeah, because he's staring at the island.
The camera pans, and Ben tells him that they're on an island about twice the size of Alcatraz, and they can see the original island and that there's no way to escape. Say what?
Fuck!
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Sawyer is pissed they put him through all that, and Ben says, we did all this because the only way to gain a con man's respect is to con him.
Oh, well, okay.
And you're pretty good, Sawyer, but we're a lot better. Funny thing is, us telling you about the pacemaker wasn't what kept you in line. It's when I threatened her. You work so hard to make her think you don't care, that you don't need her, but a guy goes nuts if he ain't got nobody. It don't make any difference who the guy is, long as he's with you. I tell you, a guy gets too lonely and he gets sick. Sawyer wonders what the hell Ben is talking about, and Ben responds, it's from Of Mice and Men. Don't you read?
Oh!
Come on,
Ben.
let's get you back to your cage.
Oof.
End of episode. Wow. Yep.
Like dropping that bomb on
That
us.
was a
There's
huge
no
bomb.
escape. We're on another island. Are you fucking kidding me right now?
Seriously,
Mice
they've got
and Men was one
submarines.
of the books that I was forced to read in school that I really enjoyed.
I liked it.
Yep.
Yeah.
We were
Agreed.
too.
Agreed. Anybody want to guess what the fun facts are today?
Ooh,
Of Mice and Men?
Of Mice
The
and Men
Epic
is
of Gilgamesh.
Oh, no. No Gilgamesh.
Okay, I'm never gonna live down the Epic of Gilgamesh. Like I fucking wrote it.
It was epic. Boredom.
Yeah. It's a stupid fucking story. I'm just going to
Oh
say
my
it. I don't care how
God.
long ago it was written. It was stupid.
Yep.
You guys need to get the fuck over it, okay? Of Mice and Men is a 1937 novella written by John Steinbeck, based on his experiences working alongside migrant farm workers as a teenager in the 1910s. The title is taken from a Robert Burns poem called To a Mouse, which reads, "The best laid schemes of mice and men often go awry." While being a classic book read in American high schools, which we all just mentioned, Of Mice and Men has been a frequent target of censors for vulgarity and racist language. It appears on the American Library Association's list of the most challenged books of the 21st century. All right, so the story. of Mice and Men is centered around two itinerant workers, George and Lenny, in California in the 1930s. They are searching for work, and they've heard of a ranch called Soledad. So the entire book takes place over 4 days, beginning on Thursday evening and ending on a Sunday. When George and Lenny get to the ranch, they meet many other characters, most of which we will not go into. But the effect of the book is, it emphasizes kind of the loneliness and the difficulties of a ranch lifestyle. Each character that you meet, being a migrant worker, and you talk about their struggles, or the book explains their struggles.
I think even Soledad actually means, I think that means solitary.
Sun. Oh, yeah, like alone. Solitary, Soledad.
I have to look it up.
Yeah, we can do that. But that would be pretty on the nose then, wouldn't it? So anyways, at several points during the novel, the two men, they discuss their dream. One day they want to own their own ranch. They want to be working for themselves. But that is not how the story ends, friends. So George
Soledad means solitude.
Yep, Spanish for solitude. Yep,
okay.
Yep.
Well, good job there, Mr. Steinbeck. So George is a small, very intelligent man, and he is always looking after his friend Lenny, who is very large, very strong, and he is mentally disabled to the point that he's childlike, and that is what gets him in trouble, his size. So he has an obsession with petting. He likes to pet anything, basically, but typically it's mice, rabbits, puppies, and unfortunately, women. And he has an accidental touch, and Lenny kills things a lot. So at the story's beginning, they're working, looking for work in this new town, because in the last one, Lenny was accused of attempted rape when he tried to pet a woman's dress. And then accidentally hurt her. So it's written that Lenny's pretty innocent, but that is not what the law thinks, I guess. So Lenny's strength becomes increasingly problematic throughout the story. It becomes clear that he just doesn't understand how much damage he can cause. He accidentally kills a rabbit and a puppy. Sawyer was correct. And then when a woman named Candy very nicely lets him pet her hair, he accidentally breaks her neck. So at the end of the book, to protect Lenny from retribution, George tells him a story about what their dream farm will look like, and as he imagines it, George shoots him in the back of the head. It's a heartwarming story, and
it's like Old Yeller with people.
Yeller with people, yeah. There's actually a really great film adaptation. If you don't want to read the book, but you'd like to see this uplifting story.
So Gary Sinise and
Gary Sinise and John Malkovich. Yeah, it was made in 92, but it was a pretty good movie. And again, I was the same way in high school when I was forced to read this book, and I was actually like, oh, okay.
That's a decent story. It's fucked up.
Yeah, well, it's tragic. Yes. Yeah. All right. So, shall we move on to moments?
Let's do it.
Yep.
The enthusiasm.
Your enthusiasm. Yes. Thanks, guys. Okay. Ben, how about you? What's best and worst?
My favorite moment was just when they were on top of the cliff and Ben starts spouting back of Mice and Men to him, and it's like, so Mice and Men, don't you read? That was just a great moment.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
My least favorite was just, it wasn't really a moment. It was just the fact that that Sawyer didn't know that tiny little incision on his chest was not enough for somebody to have installed a pacemaker in his heart.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a plot hole that kind of bugs me, but.
Well, I mean, Sawyer's not exactly a cardiologist or a heart surgeon.
I mean, I guess
Jack would have known. You have to break the bones to install something like that. You have to break your ribs. You would know.
You're also not going to just be up and walking around after fucking heart surgery 5 minutes later.
Have you guys ever had broken ribs?
Nope.
Yeah, we all know you broke your wib.
Wib. Your wib.
You know what? When trying to scold somebody, you should speak properly.
Wascally
We all
wabbits.
know you broke your rib on the washing machine, you weirdo.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
It hurts, man.
Knowing somebody who did have heart surgery or a heart transplant, it's a lot to go through to be able to get at the heart. That's why it's there. It's in one of the most protected
Very well
regions of the body
protected,
specifically.
Yeah, true.
Because
Well,
Right.
not specifically. I mean, that's a product of evolution that our heart is protected, because if it wasn't,
Yes.
you did.
Exactly right.
All right. Next moments. Oh, I'll do mine. My best moment was the lightning strike, because you're just like, wait a second. Like, what is happening here with Desmond right now? Worst moment when we find out that they're on a different fucking island. Like, holy shit. Every step of the way, the others have the upper hand, and it's upsetting. Christy, what'd you think?
I have two of each.
Okay.
Or no, just two of the best. Sawyer putting the money into account for Clementine. Even if it's a scam by Cassidy, which it might be.
I guess we don't know that, right?
You know?
Nope.
And then I enjoyed Sawyer quoting Of Mice and Men and telling Ben he'd like it because puppies get killed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty great.
And then my worst moment was Pickett beating Sawyer and asking Kate if she loves him. And Kate getting back into the cage, because in both instances, she really does love Sawyer in her own way.
Yes, I know. I think she shouldn't have taken it back, because she did mean it. She knows she meant it. Derek, how about you?
Best moment was when Ben took Sawyer to the top of the hill and showed him they were on a different island and there was nowhere to run. It's like, wow.
Oh, that was your best and my worst.
So that was my best. The reveal, you're like, oh my God, there's even more coming, you know? And I did like the end where he quoted Of Mice and Ben and said, don't you read? Just threw it right back at him.
Yeah, he did.
And the worst moment was Danny beating the living shit out of Sawyer for something he really didn't have anything to do with.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, he didn't shoot her, but...
Well, so I almost kind of think that maybe this is a little bit of a plot hole, that they're supposedly on a separate island, just because when they had the episode where we found the little village of others, and they saw the plane breaking up and crashing, he was like, Ethan, you go here, and what was the other one?
Yeah, but what you're saying is explained later.
Okay.
Because the village is not on this island.
The village is on the big island, and
the village is on the big island. This is where they work. It's on the other island. That's how it's explained later.
Yeah.
Sorry, Derek. But
I forgot
it's not too much of a
No,
a
it's
reveal.
not. I mean, I know there's obviously another island. That's where all the cages are. And
obviously they've got
much of
boats
it.
and submarines, so they can get back and forth.
That's true.
submarine.
Yeah. Or a submarine, at least.
Yeah, a submarine.
As much we know at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, they could have a whole fucking armada. I guess we don't really know. Okay. So, Derek, why don't you keep going? Give us your character rankings and fucking kill.
My best character was Sawyer. I liked him in this episode.
Okay.
You know, like what he did for Clementine as well was a good thing. And then Ben was my second best.
Hey!
Ben is growing.
We got a convert!
Yep, he's growing on me. I just
Uh-huh. He's like a cancer that way.
Yeah.
and then and then Desmond was my third favorite. My worst was Danny. You know, Danny and his, what do you call his pants? Dad pants?
Yeah.
Danny Dad Pants?
Deadly Dad Pants Danny?
Deadly Dad pants Danny, yeah. And then I threw Paolo in there just because hitting the stuff, you know, hitting those things into the
Fuck him.
ocean was just stupid.
Yeah.
What are you fucking
I'm
killing?
gonna fuck Kate.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my heart rate went up to over 125 when I saw that scene too.
Hey.
And then I'm gonna kill Danny.
All right. Danny Dad Pants, get the fuck out of here. Mine were similar to yours, I think. So I had first, I had Ben. He's a baller. He's a step ahead. And also, like, the balls to try to convince somebody that you had heart surgery done on
I
them.
know.
And he
I know.
just
Con
pulls
to
it
con
off.
man.
Yeah, he pulls it off. Like, he's just baller. Second, Desmond, because I'm still intrigued and attracted to Desmond. And Sawyer, I had in third, because, like, there he goes being a good guy again.
Yeah.
Worst character, I had Paolo. Fuck him. I didn't put anybody else in the worst characters. I wanted it to be impactful. I am going to fuck Desmond in a field of lightning rods during a tropical downpour. And I'm killing Dead Pants Danny. Fuck you. Christy, how about you?
My top 3 were Kate, Sawyer, and Desmond.
Okay.
I loved all the Kate Sawyer stuff in the cages. And
by performance of the actor, this episode for Evangeline Lilly, I thought she was just so good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then bottom 3, Paolo because he's a douchebag, Dad Pants Danny, and then Charlie because he's like, I'm handy, I can fix it if it's a problem. Shut up, Charlie.
Seriously. Why did you cover up Aaron's forehead with your mullet from the rain?
Yeah, there you go.
I am going to fuck Desmond, and I'm going to kill Dad Pants Danny.
All right. Benjamin.
My top 3 are Ben, because he's just menacing and awesome. In the scene where he's shaking the rabbit, going, hey, looking back and forth. It's like it makes me so tense.
Yeah. And performance, again, performance for an actor, Michael Emerson, in that scene alone. Like that scene for him and for Evangeline Lilly, the scene where Sawyer's getting his ass beat, that both of those scenes were intense as fuck.
Yeah.
Yes,
and the actors were stellar. Yeah.
The way he makes you believe, even though I know the whole thing about the heart thing is total bullshit. In that moment, you think this fucking guy is capable of anything. Just later on to be like, we didn't actually do anything, silly buns. Like, we just injected some fear into. Like he's just he's a great character. He's formidable. And then Sawyer and Kate in second, third, because both of their performances and their sort of dynamic of this entire episode was really great. Mm-hmm. I only have one person in the bottom, and that's Paolo. I thought about savaging him with a 5-iron instead of a lightning rod, but I didn't actually kill him. I don't know.
Maybe a lightning rod. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's a douchebag sitting there playing golf, but it's not like kill worthy. As I see.
Okay.
And I'm gonna fuck Cassidy because I think
she looks good.
I think she's just hot.
Yes.
And her voice too.
Kim Dickens is just hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Her voice and Juliet's voice, both of them, to me, it's just like, oh, yeah.
I just thought about it. Her last name is Dickens. Yeah.
It is.
Oh.
That's some good Dickens, Kim.
Oh, my God. Who are you killing?
So, going on to the power rankings?
No, who are you killing?
I didn't kill anybody. I said I considered killing Paolo with a 5-iron, but
and you didn't choose anyone else. Got it.
Yeah,
update us. What's it looking like after episode 4?
So we do have a little bit of movement here. I'm not going to go into the scores, but I will just go into how things have shifted. We still have Sawyer in first place, but Kate has jumped into second place in front of Juliet. Juliet has fallen into third.
Oh, okay.
But we've also got Desmond, who's moved into fourth place. He's been making up some ground, so he's starting to look like... Yeah, seriously. all he has to do is not wear clothes and see into the future.
Yep.
We have a new first place. It's Deadly Dad Pants Danny.
Yes.
Last? I mean, he's the worst?
He is worst. First worst. Yeah, and then we've got behind him Paolo, who I'm sure will probably stick there for a while. And then Jack in third to worst.
Wow. He's not redeeming himself quite yet.
No, not yet.
After being such a dipshit in the first episode.
Seriously.
No, but the other ones that like Dad Pants Danny and Paolo are so awful that they're like, at least pushing
I'm
him.
sure Paolo's going to keep going down.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Let's talk about some final impressions. Christy, what did you think of this episode?
It was really good.
You liked it?
Yeah, I liked this episode quite a bit. Ben Linus is just terrifying.
Yeah.
It was. I really, really, really liked this episode a lot.
Okay, mostly for Ben.
I mean, him. The whole, stuff between Kate and Danny and Sawyer, and there was a lot of good stuff going on here.
Yeah. I think it was an impactful episode. It was intense in many ways. Some incredible performances from the cast of Lost. Character-wise, reinforcing Sawyer is a good guy. He can be a good guy. He's just got to make better choices, Sawyer. What the fuck is going on with Desmond? Okay, somebody please explain to me how he's suddenly psychic. And I love that they're building to that. We're getting little bits in each episode, which is, of course, building to his episode this season, one of them. I think after episodes 2 and 3, feeling like kind of a lull after the first episode, this one picks it up a little bit, and it's got me excited. The big reveal at the end is a huge surprise, and that's exciting and terrifying at the same time. So, I'm kind of back in it this week as far as not feeling meh like I did the last week. Ben, how about you?
First, I'd say I don't think that he's psychic. I think what he's demonstrating would actually be called clairvoyance.
Excuse me.
See the future. But,
okay. Doesn't clairvoyance fall under the umbrella of psychic phenomena?
Maybe it would fall under extrasensory perception, I think. Mm-hmm. But I think psychic is the ability to read minds, isn't it? Isn't that what that
I don't
is?
know. I just thought so. Okay.
Yeah.
Pre-show
Anywho.
Next week, new fun facts.
I think episodes 3, 4, and 5 kind of as a group, this is by far the best of the 3 episodes.
Okay. You didn't. Okay. So just so the listeners understand, we record these, we do 3 in a day, and we meet, every few weeks. So he's talking about the 3 that we're recording today.
Yeah.
You felt like this was a, the first
episode of the season was really, really strong. Second episode of the season had some great stuff, but was really flawed. The third episode was a turd, and this one I felt like this was a good episode.
We're back. That's how I felt
back.
too.
We get a lot of the sort of Sawyer the Onion, the sort of layers, and him always fighting with himself, and kind of stuck between being a shit heel and trying to be a stand up dude. And he can never really seem to fully commit to either of those for any extended period of time.
That's really his failing. It's like, at least be a bad guy or be a good guy, but this waffling in between, you're not serving yourself in this way.
Exactly. I thought, Ben Linus was fucking brilliant. I thought his performance in this or Michael Emerson, whatever, his performance in this episode was spot on. Mm-hmm. And I think he and Sawyer had a naturally good sort of chemistry in this episode. Mm-hmm. So I think all of it, I mean, other than Paolo, shanking golf balls or whatever out in the ocean, fuck that guy.
Douche.
Yeah. Other than that, I thought this was I really, really enjoyed this episode.
Yeah. Good. Okay. Well then, sir, that leaves you, Derek. How'd you feel about this episode, and what kind of questions are you having after it?
I thought it was a very good episode too. A big improvement over the last one. Because it explains more of Sawyer's past and how he's able to get out of jail early by lying and stealing.
It's funny, both of you just mentioned the last one, or we kind of all did. But when Ben calling it a turd, I'm like, it's turd is relative. Wait until we get to to Jack's episode and Nikki and Paolo's episode, I almost said orientation. Further instructions, it won't seem so bad. Anyway, sorry, Derek. Keep going.
And Ben is growing on me because there is a method to his madness. And he's capable of anything. And I think I know who those x-rays belong to.
Oh.
Yeah.
Do you?
So I got 3 questions.
Oh, cool. Okay.
What is the other island?
Mm-hmm.
What sub do they speak of?
Mm-hmm.
And what is Desmond's experiment?
Oh, okay. Wow. This is all very exciting. I can't wait to get into the Desmond storyline, and you'll get some answers as to what he is up to in this season. Okay, so not next week, though. Next week is a tragic one. Lost in My 40s, Season 3, Episode 5, The Cost of Living. It is a Mr. Echo episode, his last. And it's a me episode. And you know what? We're going to see you guys next week. All right. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Lost in My 40s is a Spacebear Media production. Executive produced and edited by me, Lacy J. Sound engineering, editing, and original music by Benjamin Trimp. Like and follow Lost in My 40s on Facebook to interact with your hosts. Plus, follow Spacebear Media on YouTube to watch our episode pre-shows. You can also find us at Spacebear_media on Instagram and Twitter. Or come to our website, spacebearmedia.com.